Welcome back to the program that brings you news from the length and breadth of Nigeria. Remember, you can catch up on our top stories and others by visiting our website, channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. Log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. And that's not all. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will also give you access to news and updates. And you'll be able to access the Eyewitness feature, with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions you find there. It's less than 2 weeks to the deadline, and the Benue State government has inaugurated 600 livestock guards for the smooth implementation of the ban on open grazing. Governor Samuel Otom also swore in the Open Grazing Prohibition Advisory Committee with a warning to farmers and herdsmen to abide by the provisions of the law.
For the past 6 years, open grazing of cattle has led to deadly clashes between farming communities in Benue State and herdsmen migrating to the Benue Valley for greener pastures during the dry season. The resultant bloodletting has so far claimed an estimated 3,000 lives, according to statistics. In order to prevent further conflict, the state government is inaugurating 600 livestock guards to enforce the Open Grazing Prohibition on Ranches Establishment Law of 2017, which takes effect on November the 1st.
My calling you here today is to charge you. The traditional rulers are here. The chairmen of the local governments are here. The various advisory committees at the local governments are here represented. The livestock guards that the law empowers to enforce the law are here, so that this assignment will be successful for all of us to have peace and live as brothers and sisters, so that we protect ourselves, so that our state will move forward.
At the technical session after the inauguration, the chairman of the task force implementing the ban on open grazing explains its implication to the herdsmen.
You will stay in those areas that you bring your cattle back to rest for the night, and then the next morning you want to take them to go on queue. That will not happen again. You will only buy food and give them. That is what is going to happen.
For the free-ranging cattle herders, confining them and their animals to any specific location is completely alien to their culture. One of their leaders raises these concerns with the assistance of an interpreter.
When the law says they should stay at this permanently and they should buy food to feed their cows from farmers, as far as they're concerned, that is a task that they do not have the strength to shoulder.
The approaching deadline coincides with the onset of the dry season, when the number of migrating cattle swells, setting the herdsmen and local farmers on a collision course. Enforcement of the law banning open grazing is expected to prevent further conflict, but compliance with the law is another matter that's left to be seen.
And unemployed youths in the Niger Delta region of the country will now benefit from the Presidential Initiative on Agricultural Development. The initiative was introduced to create jobs in the agriculture value chain and sustain the nation's agricultural development program. The Cross River State Governor, Ben Ayade, commended the federal government for continuously looking for ways to diversify from oil revenue.
Before this time, we know that the investors who would have intended to come to Cross River were complaining about things like infrastructure. But I can tell you as of today, the infrastructure in Cross River, in terms of road infrastructure, will be fixed very soon. The existing ones will receive palliatives in terms of remedial works to repair, while those other ones that will actually consolidate investments are coming very soon.
There is no amount of infrastructure, there is no amount of rural roads There's no amount of construction of culverts or rural electrification that can replace opportunity to put food on the table. The stomach comes first, employment. And so the president understands it clearly by saying it is not the skyscrapers or the fast-speed trains that makes a difference, but that every Nigerian who is of employable age has an employment. He has an employer for which he can raise his head above the murky waters of poverty and say, I'm happy that I'm in this country. I'm happy that I'm a black man. That's what the philosophy of this government is, industrialization, which is Ayade's hallmark. Of course, with the signature project, which will underpin the success of industrialization, Mr. President and my humble self are together in this boat. Having you as our co-investors, I am sure Cross River State will be a shining example that Mr. President will be proud of.
Governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, still on sustaining the agricultural value chain, the federal government has challenged universities of agriculture across the country to provide the necessary assistance in the areas of research and development. The Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Audu Ogbe, made this call at a lecture organized by the University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Ogun State. He insists that the government will provide the necessary environment to attract younger farmers into the system through modern ways of farming and agricultural business.
We have over 50 million hectares of land. We can grow our own rice, our sugar, can produce our milk. We import apples, we import milk, honey, we import fish, we import frozen chicken. The list is endless. At a cost, before now, of $22 billion per annum. What we are doing is importing food, importing products, exporting dollars, but along with the food and other products, importing unemployment and poverty into our country.
Now that all has failed us, it becomes imperative for all of us to now begin to join in the dreams of people like Chibadobe, who always believe that the only way out of the doldrums that we're going to find ourselves at that time, and that we're in now, is to pay more than a passive attention to agriculture and business.
Away from agriculture, but staying with development, about 5.5 million primary school children will benefit from the federal government's school feeding program nationwide. An implementation team is presently in Adamawa State and will cater to 17,546 pupils from primary 1 to 3, while the state government will take care of the others. This is part of a 500 billion naira social investment program announced by President Buhari's administration to tackle poverty.
About 5.5 million primary school children are expected to benefit from the federal government's school feeding program nationwide. It's part of the 500 billion naira funded social investment program announced by President Buhari's administration to tackle poverty and improve health and education of children and other vulnerable groups. It's with this in mind that the federal government, in collaboration with Adamawa State, organizes a program to educate relevant agencies and organizations involved and prepare them on the procedure for its implementation.
Let me also seize this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate our President Muhammad Buhari, for fulfilling one of the promises of our manifestos. I also want to direct all the agencies to ensure faithfulness in implementing this program. It is very, very important, because we will not just fold our arms and see injustices in this state. The federal government has done their best, in particular the president, so the implementation must be important and be guided.
The coordinator of the feeding program has this to say.
Usually programs sell themselves. If it is accepted by the community and the citizens, there will always be call for it to continue. Any government that comes and say we are not going to continue with this program, eventually the electors or the citizens will say no, we want this program to continue.
About 17,546 children from primary 1 to 3 from 1,941 schools will benefit from this initiative. While the federal government will cater for children in primary 1 to 3, the Adamawa state government will cater for those in primary 4 to 6. It's expected that this social investment program will help increase school enrollment and attendance in primary schools across the country.
Still ahead on news across Nigeria, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State says more infrastructural projects will be commissioned in the state before the end of this year.